The holographic transmission materialized with a silent electric precision that made the air itself feel brittle. Crystalline figures of impossible geometry flickered into existence, their bodies composed of interlocking geometric shapes that seemed to shift and breathe with an alien intelligence. The United Nations Emergency Council chamber fell into a silence so complete that the soft hum of electronic equipment became a thunderous backdrop to impending doom. Jack Thompson stood at the rear of the chamber, his weathered hands clasped behind his back. A network of old scars traced across his knuckles, remnants of a military career that had seen humanity's darkest moments. His steel-gray eyes never left the holographic representation of the Xeren diplomatic corps, analyzing every minute detail with the precision of a predator studying its prey. The lead emissary began to speak. Its voice was a complex harmonic that seemed to bypass human ears and embed itself directly into the listeners' minds. Each word carried the weight of galactic law, a bureaucratic sentence of extinction delivered with the clinical detachment of a computer calculating simple mathematics. Inhabitants of Earth, the alien began, its form rippling with complex chromatic shifts. The Stellar Confederation has conducted an exhaustive analysis of your species, your technological development, social structures, and potential for galactic integration have been meticulously evaluated. The conclusion is unequivocal. A three-dimensional star map materialized beside the alien figures, highlighting Earth as a microscopic blue-green dots surrounded by vast networks of interconnected stellar territories. Red lines of projected conquest pulsed around the planet like predatory tendrils. You are hereby issued a comprehensive directive of planetary surrender. Your resources, technological archives, genetic repositories, and population will be systematically integrated into the Confederation's infrastructure. You will be granted a solar cycle of preparation, 30 of your standard Earth years, to prepare for complete capitulation. The chamber erupted into chaos. Senior diplomats shouted in a dozen languages. Military commanders stood rigid, their faces a palette of rage, fear, and disbelief. Some wept silently. Others looked like they might launch themselves at the holographic representations in pure, unbridled fury. But Jack Thompson remained perfectly still. The Xeren emissary continued, its tone never changing. Resistance is mathematically futile. Our computational models show a 99.987% probability of complete submission. Your species lacks the technological capabilities, unified political structure, and resource management skills required to mount any meaningful defense. A series of holographic displays began showing humanity's perceived weaknesses: fragmented political systems, limited interstellar travel capabilities, technological infrastructure that was primitive by galactic standards. Each projection was a clinical dissection of human potential, reducing centuries of innovation and struggle to a series of statistical failures. General Rebecca Williams, the newly appointed head of the Global Defense Initiative, slammed her hand against the conference table. The sound echoed like a gunshot through the chamber. "We do not negotiate with extermination directives," she growled, her voice a controlled fury that made several diplomats flinch. The alien figures seemed to pulse with what might have been amusement, or something far more dangerous. "Negotiation is not the purpose of this communication," the lead emissary responded. "This is a formal notification of inevitable integration. Your belief that negotiation is possible demonstrates precisely why your species requires comprehensive management." Jack Thompson's lips curled into the slightest hint of a smile. The Xerans had made a critical error. They believed they understood humanity. They had compiled data, run simulations, calculated probabilities. But they had failed to understand the most fundamental aspect of human nature: the ability to transform disadvantage into unprecedented opportunity. As the holographic transmission began to fade, leaving behind a lingering sense of cosmic indifference, Thompson caught the eye of Dr. Rachel Martinez. She sat near the front of the chamber, her fingers already dancing across a holographic interface, lines of complex equations forming and dissolving with lightning speed. Their eyes met, A silent communication passed between them, a shared understanding that the Xeran Stellar Confederation had just made the most significant miscalculation in its galactic history. Humanity was about to show them exactly why. Deep beneath the Rocky Mountains, a network of research facilities hummed with an energy that defied conventional understanding. The complex stretched across multiple underground levels, each dedicated to a different aspect of humanity's most ambitious technological endeavor. Cutting-edge laboratories interconnected like neural pathways, creating a living, breathing system of human innovation. Dr. Rachel Martinez stood before a massive holographic display, her fingers tracing intricate quantum algorithms that danced and shifted like living entities. Her team, a collection of the world's most brilliant minds, worked with a sense of urgency that bordered on religious fervor. Project Prometheus was more than a defensive strategy. It was humanity's evolutionary response to an existential threat. In a sealed chamber 2 levels below, Michael Chen adjusted a quantum entanglement projector. The device looked like nothing more than a complex network of crystalline structures and precision-engineered metallic components. But Chen knew it represented something far more profound, a potential revolution in communication and computational technology that could rewrite the fundamental understanding of physics. Quantum resonance at 87.3% stability, he murmured into his communication link. A team of engineers in a nearby control room watched with bated breath. Each test brought them closer to something unprecedented. Halfway across the world, in a converted deep-sea research platform off the coast of Japan, another team worked on something entirely different. Dr. Elena Rodriguez oversaw a project that pushed the boundaries of biological augmentation and neural integration. Her team had discovered a method of enhancing human cognitive capabilities that went far beyond previous understanding. "We're not just talking about improved processing," Rodriguez explained to a group of international observers. "We're discussing a fundamental reimagining of human potential. Our neural augmentation protocols can create adaptive intelligence networks that respond and evolve in real time." The global effort was unprecedented. Private technology corporations that had spent decades competing now worked in perfect synchronization. Military research divisions from a dozen countries shared information with an openness that would have been impossible mere months ago. The Xeran ultimatum had done what no previous global challenge could: unite humanity with a singular purpose. In a secure facility beneath the Australian outback, a team of quantum computing experts worked on what they called predictive interference technology. Led by Dr. James Henderson, the project aimed to create computational systems that could not just predict potential outcomes, but actively manipulate probability fields. Imagine being able to introduce calculated uncertainties into a complex system, Henderson explained during a classified briefing. "We're developing technologies that can fundamentally alter the mathematical likelihood of specific events occurring." The underground facilities were more than research centers. They were incubators of human potential, each team working on a piece of a complex puzzle that would challenge everything the Xeran Stellar Confederation believed about technological development. Back in the Rocky Mountain complex, Rachel Martinez reviewed the latest data sets. The quantum entanglement communication system developed by Michael Chen's team showed promise beyond their wildest expectations. Initial tests suggested they could create communication networks that existed simultaneously across multiple dimensional states, a concept that would be considered impossible by current galactic scientific standards. "We're not just developing defensive technologies," Martins said during a rare moment of reflection with Jack Thompson. "We're creating a comprehensive reimagining of human technological capability." Thompson nodded, his eyes reflecting a mixture of hope and calculated determination. The military strategist in him understood the broader implications. This wasn't just about surviving the Xeran ultimatum. This was about positioning humanity as a serious contender in the galactic landscape. Funding for these projects came from unexpected sources. Governments, private corporations, and even crowd-funded initiatives contributed. Ordinary citizens who understood the stakes donated whatever resources they could. The global effort transcended traditional boundaries of nationality, ethnicity, or economic status. As night fell across the different research facilities, the work continued. Quantum algorithms danced. Neural networks evolved. Probability manipulation systems came closer to practical implementation. Each breakthrough was a defiance of the Seren assessment, a loud technological declaration that humanity was far more than a species to be catalogued and controlled. The preparation was happening in shadows, but soon those shadows would reveal something that Seren Stellar Confederation could never have anticipated. The Deep Space Reconnaissance mission represented humanity's most audacious technological gamble. 3 specially designed probes, each a marvel of engineering that pushed the boundaries of stealth and data collection, slipped through the vast cosmic darkness like ghosts. Their mission: penetrate the defensive perimeters of the Seren Stellar Confederation and uncover the hidden weaknesses of an apparently invincible civilization. Michael Chen watched the incoming data streams from a secure monitoring station buried deep within the Rocky Mountain Research Complex. His fingers danced across holographic interfaces, parsing complex streams of information that would have overwhelmed any conventional analysis system. Each millisecond brought new revelations, subtle patterns that hinted at something profound. "The computational models are wrong," he muttered, more to himself than to the team of researchers surrounding him. "They're not just wrong. They're fundamentally flawed." The lead analyst, Dr. Sandra Rodriguez, leaned closer to the display. Years of experience in xenological research had prepared her for unexpected discoveries, but nothing could have readied her for what the reconnaissance mission was revealing about the Seren civilization. Their systems were perfect, almost too perfect. The Seren Stellar Confederation had built an infrastructure of such meticulous design that it appeared unassailable. Sophisticated defense networks, predictive communication grids, computational systems that could analyze potential threats with microscopic precision. But perfection, the human team was discovering, was its own form of vulnerability. "Look at the communication protocols," Rodriguez pointed out, highlighting a series of intricate data patterns. "They're running on a closed-loop system with minimal external variation. Their entire strategic model is based on historical data and predictive algorithms." Chen nodded, a slight smile crossing his face. "Predictability is a weakness, not a strength." The probes continued their silent mission, collecting data that would fundamentally challenge everything humanity understood about galactic civilizations. Each transmission was a carefully encrypted burst, designed to avoid detection by even the most sophisticated tracking systems. Deep in another monitoring facility, Jack Thompson reviewed the preliminary reports. Military strategists had long understood that perfect systems were often the most brittle. The Seren civilization had developed technologies that could analyze thousands of potential scenarios, but they had a critical blind spot. They could not comprehend genuine randomness. Human creativity, with its capacity for unexpected innovation, was something no computational model could fully predict. The reconnaissance data revealed layers of systemic vulnerabilities. The Seren communication networks rely on highly centralized quantum entanglement systems. Each communication node was part of a vast, interconnected grid that maintained absolute synchronization. Efficiency had been prioritized over adaptability. "They've created a network that's essentially a single, massive organism," Rodriguez explained during a classified briefing. "Any disruption to one part of the system creates cascading failures across the entire infrastructure." Thompson understood the strategic implications immediately. A perfectly ordered system was, by its nature, fragile. The more complex and interconnected a network became, the more vulnerable it was to targeted disruption. The human research teams began developing strategies that went far beyond conventional warfare. They weren't just planning a defense. They were preparing to introduce calculated chaos into a system that could not comprehend genuine unpredictability. Additional probe data continued to stream in. Each transmission revealed more about the fundamental nature of Seren technological development. Their entire civilization was built on the premise of absolute control, mathematical models that anticipated every possible variation with near-perfect accuracy. but they had never encountered a species like humanity. "We're not just another data point in their computational models," Chen said, reviewing the latest analysis. "We're going to be the variable they cannot calculate." The reconnaissance mission was more than a military intelligence gathering operation. It was a profound scientific expedition that was rewriting humanity's understanding of technological development and interstellar civilization. As the probes continued their silent journey, collecting data that would become the foundation of humanity's strategic response, one thing became abundantly clear: the Xaran Stellar Confederation had made a critical error in their assessment of human potential. They believed they understood everything. They were wrong. The first human counterstrike began not with a thunderous explosion, but with a whisper of digital interference that spread like quantum frost across the Xaran communication networks. Jack Thompson watched from a hidden command center carved deep within the Rocky Mountain complex, his fingers hovering above a holographic interface that pulsed with intricate data patterns. "Initiate quantum cascading protocol," he commanded, his voice calm and measured. Dr. Rachel Martinez stood beside him, her eyes reflecting the complex algorithmic displays that danced across multiple screens. The moment they had prepared for, the moment that would define humanity's response to the Galactic ultimatum, had arrived. The attack was unlike anything in the historical records of interstellar conflict. Traditional warfare involved physical confrontation, strategic territorial gains, massive energy weapons, and destructive force. Humanity's approach was something entirely different: a surgical strike that targeted the very foundations of the Xaran technological infrastructure. Quantum entanglement communication systems began to destabilize, not with violent crashes or explosive failures, but with subtle, almost imperceptible distortions that spread like a sophisticated virus. Each disruption was carefully calculated, introducing microscopic uncertainties that would compound exponentially across the alien network. Xaran fleet navigation systems found themselves receiving conflicting data streams. Precise coordinates became fluid. Computational predictions began to fracture. What had been a perfectly synchronized network of interstellar communication now resembled a complex puzzle with pieces that refused to align. In orbit around distant star systems, Xaran warships began to experience inexplicable system failures. Navigation computers generated routes that defied logical progression. Communication relays transmitted garbled messages that contradicted themselves in real time. The precision that had been the hallmark of Xaran technological superiority now became their greatest vulnerability. "We're not destroying their systems," Michael Chen explained during a rapid briefing. "We're introducing fundamental uncertainty. Each computational model they rely on is being systematically undermined." The human counterstrike was a work of art, a symphonic dismantling of technological superiority through pure, calculated unpredictability. Where the Xarans expected direct confrontation, humanity had chosen a path of sophisticated digital warfare that challenged the very foundations of the alien civilization's understanding. Deep within secure communication centers, Xaran system administrators watched in growing horror as their perfectly constructed networks began to unravel. Backup systems activated, only to find themselves infected with the same quantum-level disruptions. Each attempt to stabilize their infrastructure only introduced more complexity, more uncertainty. Jack Thompson allowed himself the slightest smile. The human team had spent months studying the Xaran communication infrastructure, developing technologies that could introduce microscopic variations into their computational systems. These weren't simple cyber attacks. They were sophisticated philosophical challenges to the very nature of the alien civilization's technological understanding. Complete quantum cascade in 3, 2, 1. Rachel Martinez counted down, her fingers dancing across a complex interface that looked more like an abstract painting than a traditional control system. The final phase of the attack introduced something truly unprecedented. Humanity didn't just disrupt the Xaran networks, they transformed them. Computational models that had been designed to predict and control began to generate entirely new, unexpected patterns of behavior. Xeran fleet formations found themselves responding to navigation instructions that seemed to originate from multiple contradictory sources simultaneously. Communication relays transmitted messages that existed in a state of quantum superposition, both sent and unsent, true and false. "We're rewriting their understanding of technological possibility," Chen muttered, watching the complex data streams. The attack lasted mere minutes, but its implications would reshape the understanding of interstellar conflict for generations to come. Humanity had not just defended itself, it had introduced a fundamental challenge to the Xeran Stellar Confederation's perception of technological control. As the first wave of disruption settled, Jack Thompson turned to Rachel Martinez. No words were necessary. They both understood the profound nature of what had just occurred, that Xerans had demanded humanity's surrender. Instead, they had awakened something far more dangerous. The news of humanity's unprecedented response spread across galactic communication networks like a quantum wildfire. Civilizations that had long existed under the oppressive shadow of the Xeran Stellar Confederation watched with a mixture of hope, terror, and desperate fascination. In a massive communication hub located in the neutral trading zone of the Epsilon Quadrant, communication analysts from dozens of species gathered around holographic displays. The transmissions from the human-Xeran conflict defied every known model of interstellar engagement. "This is impossible," muttered Kithax, a senior analyst from the Vorlix Collective. His multifaceted eyes shifted through several spectrums of perception, trying to make sense of the data streams. The Xeran communication networks, once considered the most secure and sophisticated in known space, now resembled a complex tapestry of mathematical chaos. Jack Thompson understood the broader implications of their strategy. This wasn't just a defensive action. It was a declaration, a profound statement about the nature of technological development and civilizational potential. Dr. Rachel Martinez continued to analyze the expanding ripple effects of their quantum disruption protocols. Each transmission revealed something more extraordinary. The human Counterstrike had not just challenged the Xeran technological infrastructure, it had introduced an entirely new paradigm of computational thinking. "We're not just fighting," she explained during a classified briefing. "We're demonstrating a fundamental reimagining of technological possibility." Across various galactic communication centers, species that had long been subjugated or quietly existing under Xeran dominance began to pay attention. The mathematical models, the predictive algorithms, the supposed invincibility of the Stellar Confederation, all of it was being challenged by a species that most had considered barely worth noting. The Zorn Cooperative, a collective of silicon-based intelligent networks, found their communication systems unexpectedly resonating with the human approach. Their analysts began intense study of the transmissions, discovering layers of complexity that suggested something profound was occurring. Adaptive uncertainty, Dr. Michael Chen called it, a method of technological engagement that transformed conflict from a binary proposition of victory or defeat into a complex, fluid system of continuous adaptation. Diplomatic channels across multiple star systems began to buzz with unprecedented activity. The Xeran Stellar Confederation, an entity that had maintained galactic order through technological superiority and calculated intimidation, suddenly found itself under scrutiny. Smaller civilizations that had existed in the shadows of galactic power structures started to see a possibility they had never considered. Resistance wasn't just potential. It was a mathematical certainty if one could challenge fundamental assumptions. The human approach went beyond traditional military strategy. It was a philosophical challenge to the very nature of technological control. Each disruption was a carefully crafted message. Predictability was a weakness, not a strength. In secret research facilities across Earth, teams continued to develop technologies that pushed the boundaries of known scientific understanding. Neural integration systems that could adapt faster than any computational model. Quantum communication protocols that existed in states of simultaneous possibility. "We're not just developing defensive technologies," Thompson explained to a select group of international leaders. We're creating an entirely new approach to civilizational development. The galactic communication networks continued to pulse with the aftermath of the human counterstrike. Analysis teams worked frantically to understand the sophisticated attack. But for every layer they decoded, more complexity emerged. Smaller civilizations began to communicate in ways they never had before, sharing information, discussing possibilities. The human response had introduced something revolutionary, a sense that technological superiority was not a fixed condition, but a continuously evolving challenge. The Xeran Stellar Confederation found itself in an unprecedented position. Their carefully constructed models of galactic control were being systematically dismantled not through direct confrontation, but through a sophisticated demonstration of technological philosophy. As communication analysis continued, one thing became abundantly clear. Humanity had done more than mount a defense. They had introduced a fundamental challenge to the understanding of technological potential. The galaxy was watching, and nothing would be the same again. The underground research complex beneath the Rocky Mountains hummed with an energy that defied conventional understanding. Project Prometheus had evolved from a defensive strategy into something far more profound, a comprehensive reimagining of human technological potential. Dr. Rachel Martinez stood before a massive holographic display, her fingers tracing complex quantum algorithms that seemed to breathe and pulse with living intelligence. The latest breakthrough pushed the boundaries of scientific comprehension, creating technologies that existed in states of simultaneous possibility. We're not just manipulating probability, she explained to Jack Thompson during a classified briefing. We're fundamentally restructuring the mathematical foundations of computational interaction. Michael Chen's team had developed a breakthrough in quantum entanglement communication that rendered previous interstellar communication technologies obsolete. Their system could transmit information across impossible distances, creating network pathways that existed in multiple dimensional states simultaneously. The neural integration systems represented another leap forward. Developed by a specialized team led by Dr. Elena Rodriguez, these technologies could enhance human cognitive capabilities beyond anything previously conceived. Participants in early trials demonstrated the ability to process complex computational problems at speeds that defied existing scientific understanding. It's not about augmentation, Rodriguez explained during a groundbreaking presentation. It's about fundamental cognitive transformation. We're creating adaptive intelligence networks that can respond and evolve in real time. The probability manipulation technologies developed in the Deep Sea Research Platform off the coast of Japan represented perhaps the most extraordinary breakthrough. These systems could introduce calculated uncertainties into complex computational models, creating a level of strategic flexibility that challenged every existing understanding of technological engagement. Jack Thompson reviewed the latest test results with a mixture of scientific fascination and strategic calculation. The human response to the Xeran ultimatum had transformed from a defensive action into a comprehensive reimagining of technological potential. We're not just developing defensive technologies, Thompson explained to a select group of international leaders. We're creating an entirely new approach to civilizational development. Each breakthrough built upon the previous one, creating a cascading effect of technological innovation. The neural integration systems enhanced the probability manipulation technologies. The quantum communication protocols created new pathways for cognitive expansion. What had begun as a response to an existential threat was becoming something far more profound. Dr. Sandra Rodriguez, a lead analyst specializing in incentive technology, began to map the broader implications of these developments. The human approach went beyond traditional technological development. It was a philosophical challenge to the very nature of technological control and civilizational potential. The probability manipulation systems could introduce microscopic variations into computational models that would compound exponentially. Where the Xeran Stellar Confederation relied on absolute predictability, humanity was creating technologies of deliberate, calculated uncertainty. Think of it as a form of mathematical poetry, Michael Chen explained during a technical briefing. We're not just changing computational systems. We're introducing a new language of technological interaction. In secure testing facilities, human volunteers demonstrated cognitive capabilities that seemed to blur the line between technological augmentation and pure potential. They could process complex computational problems, analyze multilayered information streams, and generate innovative solutions at speeds that defied previous scientific understanding. The quantum communication protocols developed by Chen's team represented a fundamental reimagining of information transfer. Messages could exist in states of simultaneous transmission and non-transmission. Communication became a fluid, adaptive process rather than a fixed technological interaction. Jack Thompson understood the broader strategic implications. These weren't just technological developments. They were a comprehensive challenge to existing models of technological and civilizational engagement. As the research continued, one thing became abundantly clear. Humanity had done more than develop defensive technologies. They had introduced a fundamental reimagining of technological potential. The Xeran Stellar Confederation had demanded surrender. Instead, they had awakened something far more dangerous, a species capable of transforming existential threat into unprecedented opportunity. The Xeran fleet formations hung in the vast darkness of space, their crystalline structures a testament to technological perfection. But perfection, humanity was about to demonstrate, was its own form of fundamental weakness. Admiral Krelax of the Xeran Stellar Confederation stared at the holographic displays with growing incomprehension. The human response defied every computational model, every strategic projection they had developed over millennia of galactic dominance. What should have been a simple act of subjugation had transformed into something entirely unexpected. Each human countermeasure seemed to emerge from a realm of pure, calculated chaos. Xeran fleet navigation systems received instructions that existed in multiple simultaneous states. Communication networks found themselves responding to stimuli that shouldn't mathematically be possible. "This is not warfare," muttered a senior Xeran strategic analyst. "This is something else entirely." Jack Thompson watched from the hidden command center, his fingers tracing delicate patterns across a holographic interface. The human strategy went beyond traditional military engagement. It was a comprehensive philosophical challenge to the very foundations of the Xeran understanding of conflict and technological control. Dr. Rachel Martinez stood beside him, analyzing the cascading effects of their sophisticated attack. Each moment revealed another layer of the Xeran civilization's fundamental vulnerability. Their reliance on absolute predictability had become their greatest weakness. The neural integration systems developed by human researchers allowed for a level of adaptive strategy that the Xeran computational models could not comprehend. Where the alien civilization expected linear responses, humanity introduced deliberate, calculated uncertainty. Xeran fleet commanders found themselves issuing orders that were simultaneously received and not received. Communication relays transmitted messages that existed in quantum states of simultaneous truth and falsehood. The precise technological infrastructure that had been the hallmark of their galactic dominance now became their greatest vulnerability. "We're not destroying their systems," Michael Chen explained during a rapid strategic briefing. "We're fundamentally challenging their understanding of technological interaction." Across multiple star systems, Xeran defensive networks began to experience inexplicable systemic failures. Backup systems activated, only to find themselves infected with the same quantum-level disruptions that had initially compromised their primary communication grids. The human approach represented something entirely new in the history of interstellar conflict. It wasn't about overwhelming force or technological superiority. It was about introducing a fundamental level of uncertainty that challenged the very foundations of the Xeran strategic understanding. Dr. Elena Rodriguez had been instrumental in developing the neural integration technologies that allowed human strategists to think beyond conventional computational limitations. The system allowed for a level of adaptive thinking that transformed strategic engagement from a fixed mathematical proposition to a fluid dynamic interaction. "We're not just fighting," she explained to a select group of international leaders. We're demonstrating an entirely new approach to technological and strategic interaction. The Xeran Stellar Confederation found itself in an unprecedented position. Their millennia of galactic dominance, their carefully constructed models of control, were being systematically dismantled not through direct confrontation, but through a sophisticated demonstration of technological and strategic flexibility. Jack Thompson understood the broader implications. This was more than a military engagement. It was a fundamental challenge to the Xeran understanding of technological potential and civilizational development. Fleet formations that had been designed to be impenetrable now found themselves responding to stimuli that defied their core programming. Defensive networks that had been considered invulnerable began to show microscopic fractures that would compound exponentially. "Introduce Quantum Cascade Protocol," Thompson commanded, his voice calm and measured. The final phase of the human strategy introduced something truly unprecedented. Humanity didn't just disrupt the Xeran networks, they transformed them. Computational models designed to predict and control began to generate entirely new, unexpected patterns of behavior. As the strategic engagement continued, one thing became abundantly clear. The Xeran Stellar Confederation had made a critical error in their assessment of human potential. They believed they understood everything. They were wrong. The final moments of the conflict unfolded not with thunderous explosions or massive energy weapon exchanges, but with a subtle transformation that would reshape the understanding of galactic civilization forever. Jack Thompson stood in the hidden command center, surrounded by a team of humanity's most brilliant minds. Dr. Rachel Martinez continued to monitor the cascading effects of their technological intervention, her fingers dancing across holographic interfaces that pulsed with living algorithms. "We're not just responding to the ultimatum," Thompson observed quietly. "We're redefining the entire concept of civilizational engagement." The Xeran Stellar Confederation found itself in an unprecedented position. Their millennia of galactic dominance had been built on a fundamental misunderstanding of technological potential. Where they saw control, humanity demonstrated adaptability. Where they expected submission, they encountered a profound philosophical challenge. Admiral Krelax of the Xeran Leadership Council watched in growing horror as their perfectly constructed networks continued to unravel. The human intervention was unlike anything in galactic historical records. It wasn't destruction, it was transformation. Michael Chen's quantum communication protocols had introduced a level of technological interaction that challenged the very foundations of existing computational understanding. Messages existed in states of simultaneous transmission and non-transmission. Communication became a fluid, adaptive process that defied traditional models of information exchange. The neural integration systems developed by Dr. Elena Rodriguez demonstrated capabilities that went far beyond simple technological augmentation. Human participants could process complex computational problems, analyze multilayered information streams, and generate innovative solutions at speeds that seemed to defy physical limitations. "We're witnessing a fundamental reimagining of cognitive potential," Rodriguez explained during a critical briefing. "This isn't just technological development. This is evolutionary adaptation." Across multiple star systems, the ripple effects of humanity's response continued to spread. Civilizations that had long existed under Xeran dominance began to see possibilities they had never considered. Resistance was not just potential, it was a mathematical certainty if one could challenge fundamental assumptions. The probability manipulation technologies introduced microscopic variations into computational models that would compound exponentially. Where the Xeran Stellar Confederation relied on absolute predictability, humanity had created technologies of deliberate, calculated uncertainty. Jack Thompson understood the broader strategic implications. This was more than a defensive action. It was a comprehensive challenge to the very nature of technological control and civilizational development. Dr. Sandra Rodriguez, analyzing the broader implications, realized they had done something unprecedented. Humanity had not just defended itself, they had introduced an entirely new paradigm of technological and strategic engagement. The final phase of the human strategy was both elegant and profound. Instead of seeking total destruction, they had transformed the very nature of the conflict. The Xeran communication networks found themselves adapting to human interventions in ways that defied their core programming. "We're teaching them a new language of technological interaction," Michael Chen observed during the final stages of the engagement. Xeran fleet formations that had been designed to be impenetrable now responded to stimuli that challenged their fundamental understanding of strategic engagement. Defensive networks began to show signs of a transformation that went beyond simple technological disruption. The neural integration systems allowed human strategists to think beyond conventional computational limitations. Strategic engagement transformed from a fixed mathematical proposition to a fluid, dynamic interaction that challenged every existing model of conflict. As the final moments of the engagement unfolded, it became clear that humanity had done more than mount a defense against an existential threat. They had introduced a fundamental reimagining of technological potential. The Xeran Stellar Confederation had demanded surrender. Instead, they had awakened a species capable of transforming existential threat into an unprecedented opportunity for civilizational growth. Jack Thompson caught Rachel Martinez's eye across the command center. No words were necessary. They both understood the profound nature of what had just occurred. Humanity had not just survived. They had transcended.